Hey, this is Soma79 with a special announcement. My new Mega Mix is up. My MF Doom Mega Mix, Oxidation Moonsday, is now available. Go to www.soma79.com/doom to check it out. It's a 30-minute mix that I did of MF Doom raps over my own beats. I really enjoy it. I hope you really enjoy it. So check it out. Tell a friend. Peace. Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest today, Erik Hodson. This dude and I ended up having so much in common. He's extremely talented. I found his art because I went to a signing at a comic store in Springfield. I forget the name right now. Maybe a dungeon in the title. I don't know. I forget. But they were really cool. And they had Danhausen there, so I went down to see Danhausen, and they were selling a exclusive print there that day that was done by Erik Hodson. So if you've been watching the podcast for a while, you can see it's right over my shoulder behind Jay there. I show it in the episode, but that's been sitting there forever, and I figured if it's in the background all the time and I love it so much, I should track down the artist and see what he's all about. And I'm glad I did. This guy's got a lot of great stories. He's got a really interesting journey. He's super talented, super friendly. He's got a great attitude, and he's a wrestling fan, so nothing wrong with any of that. So Erik, thank you so much for being here. Definitely go to erikhodson.com and pick up some prints. He's got all of his prints at a very reasonable $20, or the majority of them at least. But his work is beautiful. It's a great gift for the wrestling fan and comic fan in your life, which I'm sure you probably know a few of if you're watching this. So thank you very much. Check out his stuff, and talk to you soon. Peace.
And with wings clipped, quick to flip manuscripts, cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich, but she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won, so she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling, baby, as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher.
Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. I am super excited for my guest today. Anybody who's been watching the podcast for a while has probably seen, well, it's tough to see a little bit because it's usually behind my head, but there's an empty space there now that usually holds this awesome piece.
Oh,
fantastic,
yeah.
Not Ass Boys, done by our guest today, Erik Hodson. This is signed by Danhausen. Kind of wish I could get it signed by you, but maybe someday. But so Erik is a comic book artist who does a lot of like mashup style work, like myself, with professional wrestling. This would be a comic book mashup. Fantastic Four and Danhausen with Billy Ass, the Ass Boys, or the Guns, and Britt Baker. I absolutely love this piece. It was on sale the day that I got to meet Danhausen, which was amazing in its own right. How are you doing today, Erik? Thank you for making this thing real.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And it'd be a great way to start the show since you brought that piece up, to tell you a little bit of the story behind how that came to be.
Yeah, love it.
Well, my buddy Dan, who acts as my agent from time to time, him and I were down in Chillicothe. I know I'm probably butchering that. Chillicothe, Ohio, and it was a nice little house show where you go in, you set up tables, and you chit chat for a little while, and then there's wrestling in the evening, and It's all good and fun. But we were set up right next to Billy Gunn and his boys.
Yeah.
And so we're just like giving them shit back and forth the whole weekend.
They're fun.
And Dan's like, dude, so if I got him to draw something for you guys, what would you want? And without skipping a beat, my boy Austin Gunn was like, if you did Fantastic Four #8 first Puppet Master, we would hate that. Absolutely do not do that. And because they were drinking Unicorn Bang the whole weekend. No, Cotton Candy Bang.
What is that?
The Bang energy drinks.
Oh, okay. I've never had those.
So,
I don't know if that was alcoholic or not.
Anything as the Cotton Candy Ass Boys throughout the whole weekend, and it's been really great. But yeah, so that was his idea. and it's turned out beautifully. We've formed a friendship since. I was very privileged to be offered the chance to do a piece of art for Billy's 60th birthday. Austin brought me in. We collaborated on a piece
Freaking
showing
60 years of Billy. That dude, I think he's older than The Undertaker. He looks better than I would on my best day
he
by
takes
100%.
very good care of himself. Like
Yeah.
one of the
No
conversations
cheat
we had was
days for
like,
Billy Gunn.
well, no, because it's like the piece that we did is a big, huge 18 by 24.
Wow.
And on the one half is Billy's father watching the boys when they're young while Billy's on TV. And the other half is Billy, older, sitting in his recliner watching his boys on TV, doing a guns up back to his father for looking out for him. So it's like a then and now
Beautiful.
type scenario. And I originally had something in Billy's hands, it was like a beer bottle or something. He's like, yeah, Dad doesn't drink, and he doesn't drink anything but water. So, maybe we'll just do guns up. And so, yeah,
That's beautiful. Is that a publicly available piece or was that privately for him?
it was a private piece, but you can see it on Austin Gunn's
Okay.
Instagram. He posted
I'll check
about
it
it,
out.
tagged me on it.
Those
I get
guys
to
have
go
a
down.
really bright future ahead of them. Like, I think that
Oh, they absolutely do.
yeah, they seem like really good kids. I mean, they're all adults, but they seem like they really have a good
Oh,
head
yeah.
on their shoulders. They seem to they seem to be like so ready to build on the legacy that their father built, and but also take it in a new direction, because it's like they're a really strong tag team, but in a totally different way than the New Age Outlaws or the
Yeah,
Smoking
there's a
Guns.
lot of longevity there, especially like, and I'm not taking away from Colton on this because Colton's personality is completely different than Austin's. Austin, I could see being the next Shawn Michaels.
I've heard other people say
He's
something
got that
similar. Yeah,
charisma. He's got just that natural air about him. And really, Colton he's the next his father.
yeah,
He's got the
sort of a
build,
Matt
he's got
Hardy
the
role
height.
where he can do a lot for himself, but he might not be the guy.
Yeah, so tag team or singles, whatever they end up doing in the future, they're going to be mega successful.
Mhm. WWE has to have their eyes on them. Like there's a few guys in AEW like them, and I think Kyle Fletcher is another one, and probably his partner in Aussie Open too. Have to be guys at WWE at the right time. Will probably love to have.
Oh, I bet. It was a hilarious tweet that a friend of mine, Will, posted, and he's like, wrestlers Tony Khan has gotten over, and the first one was CM Punk.
Yeah, Jinder Mahal now.
All the guys that have just recently left.
Jade Cargill. Oh man, it's I was a big AEW, and we'll get back to your art in a second. We'll top load this too much with wrestling, but I was a big AEW for fan for a while. But I'll be honest, the night that the sound of Swerve Strickland's blood hitting the back of Adam Page's throat was the sound of me turning off AEW for the foreseeable future. Like I might watch a Sting retirement match, but I watched that and I was even surprised in myself at how embarrassed I felt and how nauseous and I was just like, oh, it changed something in me. And I love Swerve, Hangman. I can kind of give it to. He's a good talent, but he's not my cup of tea. But I hope Tony gets his house in order a little bit.
Well, the perfect analogy I think with Tony is like Tony is a wrestling fan who's still a kid at heart, and he's playing with real people like action figures.
Right, and I also think too, it's like Vince McMahon is a man who became a billionaire by being a wrestler promoter, and Tony Khan is a billionaire who decided to be a wrestling promoter. I think that's the other side.
Yeah, there's a big difference there. There's a level of professionalism. Now Vince is nuts. He's gone off the rails.
Oh, yeah. I'm not totally defending Vince.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely not a defense of Vince because he's definitely turned himself into the supervillain purposefully. I think I don't know, but it's one of those things is like business changes you, and either changes you for the good or for the worst. And if you don't have any sort of degree of self-awareness about it, there's a little opportunity for you to make changes.
Right. Self-awareness is something that comes up a lot in this podcast too, because I think it's one of the keys to success. Like if you can't see yourself the way other people see you, it's going to be really hard to sort of survive in any sort of public environment.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of drama in comic books. There's a big heated drama in comic books, in indie comic book scene right now. And the people who make it the worst are the ones who, really don't have any self-awareness. They get overly butthurt about, implied slights, or they can't take a joke, or they're just so serious about themselves that they don't see any flaws. Right. We're all flawed people. We all make mistakes. We all don't do our best. One of my favorite analogies that I don't know if I came up with it, but I can't remember anybody else saying is like, we all stumble. It's you stumble up or you stumble down. I like to think that I stumble up through this life.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's like it doesn't matter how many times you fall, it matters how many times you get back up. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's what you describe about indie comics is I'm a hip hop artist, I'm a rapper, is exactly true about indie rappers too, where it's like it seems like the less you have going for you, the more you run your mouth to some degree. And people who actually have the self-awareness and are good know they don't have to run their mouth, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
so you do a comic, we'll get back to wrestling stuff too, but Dinosaur Man, that's indie comic that you make, correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah, currently it exists as a webtoon, The Dreaded Dinosaur Man, and I haven't had time to get up and update any chapters in a long time because I've been busy drawing for other people, working on other projects that are helping to pay my bills.
Yeah.
But that is my IP I hold closest to my heart, and I want to see an action figure and a cartoon on Netflix and then what have you in the future, and I'll just keep pressing on with it. But it's definitely my passion project.
How long have you been working on that
You
for?
can read it for free. What?
Yeah, how long have you been working on it for?
Since about 2017. It originally started as an offshoot from a webcomic I had done in the early 2000s called Chad the Fat Kid. And that did fairly well in the webcomic scene at the time. And I wanted to bring the character back, and I thought, well, let's lean into his imagination more, because it's really kind of an autobiography of me growing up, because I was the art nerd, I was the fat kid, I got picked on a lot.
Hey, me too. We could have hung out.
My imagination and telling stories is what kept me from bringing a gun to school and wasting these people. So, that's kind of like where that whole genesis started. And I was going to lean into his imagination more. And that was Dinosaur Man. And the more I developed the lore for Dinosaur Man, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with Chad in my life. I want to work on this. So I started really developing as its own standalone. And that's where it sits right now on Webtoon.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's like these days too, especially because you seem like to be similar to me, where you do a lot of work, which is like mashups of existing IP, but to have your own like really piece that's due to your heart. And I have a character too, Oxy Astronaut's a namesake of this podcast, where it's like you feel like there's so much room to express yourself, and you can take advantage of all of that's come before you and really pull something. It's so nice to be able to work in both those worlds, you know.
Yeah, I went into fan art with trepidation because I really didn't respect it at first. And and it was a kind of a necessity because I had a hard time building a name. I started in 2005 publishing my own comics, and these were vestiges of stuff that I had done in high school, trying to turn them into an actual commercial viable product. And it was a big struggle, especially back then. There was hardly any internet, there wasn't any YouTube or anything like that back then, really. So I just had the convention scene to sell my book, and I never made any money at it. And so I did some teaching for a while, tried to see if there was other places that I could bring in an income and be successful. And with my health the way that it is, and it kind of turned sour a little bit trying to teach, I just decided, you know what, I'll go back to conventions and I'll give the fan art thing a try. And I started making money and being able to support myself, support my family. So, it's been really good to me. My wrestling fans are some of the best fans I could ask for, because they've been there for me every time you buy a poster from me. You're helping keep the lights on. You're helping me feed my family. It's that hand to mouth closeness. So I'm eternally grateful, and it's like there's no way I could. Like, I really try hard not to have an ego about it. Like, people will give me compliments, and I'm the type of personality that's like, I don't know what to do with this. Thanks.
I'm the same way. It's like I do things that try to get me attention, but when I get the attention, I'm very uncomfortable with it. Like, I don't know how to, like, I want to make it more about the other person. I don't like the attention doesn't feel good, Probably because I was a fat kid too as a kid, and I was used to getting positive attention. I never knew how to learn how to deal with it. I learned how to deal with negative emotion really well.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But when I see somebody smile or take it like you did with the Ass Boys piece, you genuinely love that piece, and so that's heartwarming, and I want to keep that going. Yeah. And
I'm gonna love the Brett the Hitman Spider-Man Punisher piece I buy from you at some point too, because I think that I did a mashup of that too with Czarface and Doom, and I have a lot of love for that cover. Nice. And the Brett the Hitman, it's like there's sometimes I hear a rap lyric from another rapper and I go, oh, that's one I could have written. And when I saw you do the Hitman on that one, I'm like, didn't I think of that? Like, well done, well done.
Some of them are so evergreen, like the Undertaker one right here.
Is that Mick Foley below it too?
Yeah. It's the full life.
Yep. I love Foley, man.
Foley is a gem. He's a good friend of mine.
You did some work with him, right?
But, what's that?
You did some work. Yeah, he's a friend. He's one to me. He is like when you break it. If you just break his credentials down objectively, New York Times best-selling author, like appears in shows like 30 Rock and stuff. Hilarious when he was on Saturday Night Live. Then the multi-wrestling time champion. Then the fact that he is both everything that a wrestler is and everything that a most wrestler isn't. He's a treasure. And he's Santa Claus. That dude is a friggin' treasure.
He's a true blue collar guy. He's very friendly, very approachable. Like I said, like this piece got his attention from me and Linda do a phone call within minutes of me finding all this out. I'm on the phone with him, and I did work for a couple of his book tour, his comedy show tour. I got a new piece I need to be working on for a 2024 possible tour this year, but. Yeah, no, it's just been he's a total class act in a gym.
Yeah, he's just everything you want out of a wrestler, and it's like I love his podcast with Conrad Thompson, where like he's forthright, but he's not mean. And I think it's like if there were more people like that in the world, like he's a man that can live in the gray area where so many people are black and white. And he reminds me of sort of Kevin Smith. He's like the Kevin Smith of wrestling, where you're just like, you're glad he's around, you're glad he's contributing, and he's doing something special and different.
That's a pretty good analogy. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, imagine those two can make a good team someday doing something. But so let's talk about a little bit how you did this start. Like I'm guessing when you said around 2005 to start going to fan art, you must have already been a pretty big wrestling and comics fan, correct? Or were those already things you had passion for?
I've been a wrestling fan, a comic fan ever since I was a little child. My dad and I would rent the VHS tapes of the Summer Slams,
WrestleMania 4 with the two discs, the two tapes.
Oh, absolutely. We'd rent those from the video store, and that's how I would know what was going on because I didn't have cable till I was in my 20s.
Me too. I didn't have cable till I was senior year of college. My roommate got a black box, and I went from 0 to 16. It was like 4 channels to all the pay-per-views and the porn and everything.
We stole cable in college like crazy, and it was ridiculous. It was like a total spy op to get into the box, and because like where we were at, we was like 4 dorms per floor, and so we're all friends on the one floor, and we're all like working on shit and constantly busy. So that was my first experience in seeing anything outside of 3 or 4 channels where you gotta
like Superstars and like Saturday Night Main Event. Like that's basically all I got was like Saturday morning Superstars and Saturday Night's Main Event was basically what I was excited on.
So there's a ton of house shows and stuff that I've never seen, stuff that was just done for tapings. And matter of fact, that Bret Hitman Hart piece, I recently remastered that. That was originally the first one I ever did. And I had Vince McMahon in the sharpshooter in the target and all that, and it sold pretty well, but I didn't realize that I'd made a mistake and I put the wrong eagle belt on Bret. So I had to fix that, and I draw so much better than back then now. So I remastered it and I put Ric Flair in the sharpshooter because that's really the first time Bret Hart won the championship, and it was a tight TV taping for the home video release.
Oh yeah,
where Bret won it first, and they took the belt away from him, gave it back to Flair, so Flair could lose it, so Bret could win it back later. It's called it was in Saskatoon.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah, it's like when you call a man a 15-time champion, and those are the 16-time, and those are some of the title switches. You're like, okay, I've got to put this stuff in perspective.
So as a fan, I love going back watching the old stuff. I was a huge Warrior fan. I was a Hulkamaniac,
I just loved Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Honky Tonk Man. Those were my 2 guys like back in the day. I love them both.
Absolutely. They had such a great rivalry too. Going back and forth.
Yeah. It's funny too, because it's a good, like Honky Tonk Man's not a great wrestler. He's sort of like a Dominic Mysterio is sort of the modern day version of like a Honky Tonk Man, where you're like, despite the fact that you're not a 5-star match guy, you still can put on a 5-star performance.
It's one of those things that I tell people who are critical of pro wrestling, which I think are fewer now than it used to be, because it used to be very uncool.
WWE's on a big hot streak right now.
And it's like, listen, a pro wrestler has got to be really good at every entertainment job there is.
Yeah.
You got to be an actor. You got to be a stuntman. You got to be good on the mic. You know,
You
you
got to
got to
work to the
be
back of the room
absolutely, help
and to
bring
TV
in off the
at the
plane
same
and
time.
whatnot. And there's very few guys who are pros at every single thing. Like somebody like Chris Jericho, for example,
Right.
he is the GOAT. He's my
Right.
favorite of all time. He does every job in pro wrestling to the best of his ability, and he's great at all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are better on the mic than others. Some people are better wrestlers than others, and it's all how you are booked and how you sell yourself.
Yep. Yep. It's like guys like him, like Randy Orton, like guys that have just, you could trust them to do anything. Like they have the
Yeah.
experience, the reps, they know how to do. Yeah. It's like Christian Cage is another one I love, you know. So for you, so you said the first piece you did was the Bret Hart Spider-Man. I think it's Spider-Man 128. It might have that wrong, but
129.
129. Okay, yep. So that was the first one. Were you, did that comic have a place in your, like, was that a particular favorite comic of yours? Or I mean, it's obviously one that a lot of people
It's one of
turn to.
those key books that I always wanted, and I don't own it yet,
Me
so it's
neither.
still on my to buy list. But it's a huge thing. Like when my dad got me into comics, he gave me a bunch of his old books. Sadly, he didn't have any of the big keys or any of the really old stuff because he'd given that away. But that was my first escapism. Is like for me, my brain, the way my brain's wired, I went into my toys, I went into cartoons, I went into
Me too.
comics. That was where I was safe and where I could develop as a person. And the rest, because the rest of it was all chaotic and haphazard. So that's, really, really kind of what saved me mentally and, at least in my early childhood. So I've always had a love for him, love for Spider-Man. Iron Man is my personal favorite of the Marvel people
Good
because the
choice.
idea of hiding inside of a suit that made you stronger really appealed to adolescent
Yeah.
fat kid Eric. Who,
Well, it's funny too, because like people who I've noticed this over the years, and it's very true of me, people who love hip hop, comic books, and wrestling, there's a shared thing in between them, which is that you're making yourself bigger than yourself using your creativity. Is that you feel small inside, but you put on a bigger version of yourself, or that's what comic book characters do, it's what wrestlers do, and that's what rappers do. And I think that's appealing to people who feel small and feel trapped in their own body. And for me, that was my escape to those three things.
one of my big aha moments doing conventions, because it was really rocky to start out with. It was very hard for me as a mostly an introverted person to turn on the extrovert. I'm more of an omnivert now. I've gotten used to talking. It's like it's nothing for me to come on with you right now because I've been doing this type of thing for so long. I feel confident in what I'm saying, but that takes time to build.
Yes.
And one of the things that really was an aha moment was tying this to wrestling was I needed a kayfabe. So when I go to shows, I put on this personality. It's like a mental exercise. Like this is my wrestling persona.
Yeah.
I'm like a manager, and a lot of times I'll wear a really nice suit. I do a mohawk with my hair, put it up, kind of really get into character. And when I come home on Monday, I sleep all day from a con because I'm so exhausted from all of the extroverting.
Yeah.
But it works, and it's the same thing for doing like this type of stuff. I'm more animated. But I probably won't say any words the rest of the day.
I'm very, yeah, it's like I have a little bit of that too. It's like I think the word empath gets thrown around a lot, but I'm one of
Yeah,
those people who sort of like I love my social stuff, but once it's over, I need to recharge. Like I need to be
yeah,
able to like
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
makes a
we're right
huge
there.
difference. Yeah, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So once you did get, it was really first the convention circuit, as you said, there wasn't really social media back then. There was like MySpace, but how much you really, that wasn't a huge revenue stream for, unless you were Tila Tequila. So it really, how did it build going on the convention circuit? Like what did people respond right away to stuff like the Bret Hart piece? Were there other people doing similar stuff? Because mashup art has, back in that time, there was mashup music was kind of new with people like DJ Z Trip, and there was some mashup art, but it was nowhere near as big as it is now.
Yeah, no, there was very little of it, and there wasn't a lot of people doing wrestling either. Like, I give credit to my peers who are still very active in the fan art business. They recognized that I had kind of formed a niche with wrestling, so they stayed away for the most part. Like they'll do their Hulk Hogan, they'll do the big name things that they know, but they're not fans. They don't watch regularly. it's kind of the same thing with anime too. It's like I do a lot of things in my anime art because I'm a big anime weeb that a lot of people don't do, because you've got basically two different types of fan artists out there. You've got ones who are really passionate about it and they do a lot of variety and stuff. Then you have people who aren't there. They just want to make the money, so they'll do the stuff they know. So like they'll do a Hulk Hogan, or they'll do a Deku from My Hero Academia because they know that's popular.
Right.
But they won't do obscure characters. They won't, like with my mashups, I really try to make sure that the wrestling story, if I'm showing a story from history, is presented in a good way, that the book that I'm using, if I'm using a cover, is appropriate for that scenario. And my copycats will just throw spaghetti at the wall and hope it sticks, because I've seen some knockoffs of doing this. It's like, first one, you're not getting the faces right. Second one, this doesn't make any sense why you put these wrestlers in this cover and do it. You can tell they're just trying to make a quick buck with it.
You're not going to fool the consumer either, because it's like the average person who's not a wrestling fan, despite Hulk Hogan being internationally famous, isn't going to buy a Hulk Hogan t-shirt. So you're still trying to sell the wrestling fans who have a huge supply of Hulk Hogan t-shirts or arts to choose from, and they still want the one that's most authentic,
Absolutely. And I feel very privileged when people choose my stuff, because, I'm not the only game in town, but I try to make sure I put that passion and that enjoyment into everything. So you might see some things in the background. There might be some key details that somebody else might not do, but I try to because I know the fans are going to see those. I know they'll appreciate that. I appreciate to put those in.
Right. Even like the thing with this Danhausen thing, with a reference to Britt Baker being a dentist. Like, I think Billy Gunn refers to him as my kid's dentist or something like that. I thought that was great. My biggest regret is when I was unpacking some stuff. I went to the thing in Danhausen. I don't know why I still have this, but I found this thing with my old baby teeth in them. I'm like, I wish I had Danhausen sign these.
Oh,
so that's next time, I guess.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So from there, like, what were your next ones after Bret Hart? Was it like, did you find that it was hard to get that same success again, because that's been one of your more successful pieces? Was it challenging to have one of your more successful ones come first out of the gate, or did it give you false sense of security or the right sense of security?
No, honestly, and credit again to the fans, is like, once people caught on to this, my inbox was flooded with people saying, "Oh, you should do this." They were just pouring these ideas and passion. And so I have a bunch of designs like this one here, which are evergreen, meaning they'll sell for the rest of my life. And you get done with them, like the Fantastic Four Horsemen with Ric Flair. It's the Fantastic Four 40, not 49. It's the first Inhumans, the first Black Bolt. So you've got Flair in the middle, all sprayed out, and then you got the heads of all the horsemen and the manager in the corner, and that one's evergreen. The Incredible Hulk Hogan, Hulk 181 with Roddy Piper down there where the Wendigo is, and you got Hulk going against Andre, WrestleMania 3. Ones like that. Those were some of the earlier ones I did after that Bret Hart one, and like I said, they're very much evergreen.
Right. And that's sort of like go for it.
I was just kind of speculating. Some of the ones that don't really move or sell well are like the Jerry Lawler Iron Man, where it's the demon in the bottle cover.
I did a mashup of that too with Czarface. Yeah.
So there's a lot of iconic ones where it's like, I've done that big key issue cover, and so now I'm thinking about if I use this again, what would be a more modern interpretation of which work can I use?
It's tricky doing mashup work, because sometimes I come up with something that I think is really clever, but you realize that clever doesn't always sell. Like that, you're like, oh, like the ones who get this will love it, but you're like that. You're also spending a ton of time on something that maybe only a small number of people will get, and the chance of a lot of them even seeing that's kind of low. So trying to find that right combination.
I did a Kurt Angle piece with I'm blanking on his name, from Harlem Heat.
Booker T.
Booker T, yeah. I don't know.
Oh God, that great storyline.
From Impact era, which was
that's better. I was thinking the WWE one with Starmel.
Yeah, no, this was Impact era. It was a tremendous match that was ruined at the end of it by bad writing.
That's Impact.
I had the two of them together, and that one never sells. And it just goes to show, no matter how good a match is, the fans there's things that stick with them, and that's not one of the things that's really stuck with them.
I mean, if that was Booker T and Steve Austin in a grocery store, I bet you probably couldn't print those fast enough. Because that to me,
there's things like that, and then Steve Austin with the bedpan and McMahon. Those are some
yes.
key moments I haven't done yet that are like on my to-do list. But it's like, you know, another one that's like I'm surprised isn't been doing well was for a long time I had a D-Generation X-Force
Oh, that
planned.
seems perfect. Yeah.
It's X-Force #2, and I'm doing the Return of Shawn Michaels. So that's a Deadpool going against Domino cover, Rob Liefeld piece. And so I've got Shawn Michaels with McMahon and ring stuff being crashed around. And I was at a show with Shawn, and that thing barely moved. I honestly don't get it.
That's wild. It's just, you know, I don't know. It's like in Shawn Michaels too. It's like, I don't think he hasn't been merchandised the way that a lot of other wrestlers have. It's like, you don't see as many, like, you know, I had a Shawn Michael Jesus Fish t-shirt I used to wear around all the time, kind of as a joke, but I got it on like WB Shop Zone, like super sale. And we're at the gym. People looked at me super weird. They had no idea what to think, but I love HBK, man. That's, you know, maybe when Deadpool 3 comes out, that'll be the perfect time for that.
Maybe so. It's weird with fandom because it's like there is a bit of a herd mentality. At least I noticed this at shows. Something needs to be in the forefront mainstream wise to get people thinking about it.
Right.
Because like you'll see this as like a new Spider-Man movie will come out, and suddenly there's a ton of Spider-Man fan art at every convention, because it's the hot thing right now. Or a new season of My Hero Academia drops, people dust off all the you know. It's just the fans. There is a bit of a mentality there that's not isolated. I hate saying herd mentality, but it's just the way that things are.
Right.
You know, when they're in the public eye, people are more aware of them, so they're looking for those things.
Right. There's sort of a mathematical aspect to the business of mashups I found, because I did this series of 10 video game hip hop crossovers, and some of them sold pretty well. But then I did one that I loved that was Missy Elliott mixed with a Metroid, and it just fit really well because she's Samus whatever in Metroid's a woman, and it fit perfectly, and it all worked out fine in the thing. But then I realized it's like the Venn diagram of Missy Elliott fans and Metroid fans are probably pretty small, you know, and you're just like, because somebody really has to like both of those things. And it's like if you loved that Spider-Man cover but didn't really know who Bret Hart was, you're probably not going to make that sale. So it's like I had to get in my mentality of, okay, we need to find things that one audience will like both of them, you know.
Yeah.
Or it's so bizarre that they're gonna either it's so far on the other end that it's like, oh, like this is Karen Carpenter dressed like Sting or whatever. Then you're like, okay, now we might have something, but you know.
Well, that's one of the things.
Patent pending on that one.
With the wrestling comic book mashups is that there's so much overlap between those two, because if you think of it, this has kind of always been my working philosophy, is wrestling is a live action comic book.
Yep.
You know, so comics and wrestling, they go so well together. Now, wrestling comic books have sold like forever. They're always terrible.
Yes.
You know,
yes, they keep trying.
The old WWCW, WWE tried it. Boom Studios couldn't keep.
Yeah, there was one maybe 5-10 years ago that looked interesting. It was an indie one, but I don't remember really. I think I remember one issue.
You know, and my theory is that they lean too much on trying to make a wrestling show into a comic book, not leaning into the kayfabe of the characters.
They make them almost too much for kids, I think, sometimes too, where you're just almost like it's not going to appeal to an adult audience and the kids don't give a shit.
You know, because my philosophy with it is like, if you're going to do a wrestling comic book with a wrestler in it, it needs to be about the character, and you need to do things in comics that you wouldn't be able to do on television.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like with our Roddy Piper comic book.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Glad you brought that up. I'm a huge Piper fan.
So this is Roddy Piper, the Kilted Avenger.
Yep. Was that made while he was still with us?
Sadly, no. We worked with Kitty. We worked through Pro Wrestling Tees to make this happen. And
great site, Pro Wrestling Tees. That's a great. Check them out. Yep.
With this book, it's Roddy Piper as a talk show host by day and a vigilante crime fighter by night.
I like it.
So you lean into the fiction, you lean into the kayfabe, the story. You know, you make it as absurd and crazy as possible. You don't make a comic book about backroom drama that you could just film for an episode.
Exactly.
You know,
That's what the video
you have
games
to
are kind of
fly.
for. The video games kind of fill that niche
Yeah,
if there is one.
absolutely. So we've had tremendous success with this. It's a whole series. The second book stars the British Bulldog. I'm almost finished with it now. So we're doing a shared universe situation where you've got Roddy Piper, the British Bulldog, a third wrestler, which we haven't publicly named yet, kind of all coming together at the end to defeat the big bad guy, kind of just like the Avengers.
Yeah.
And they all have powers and stuff. Like the British Bulldog, he's the UK Defender. So
He's
he's
like
an
Captain Britain.
MI6 operative. He's also a superhero. And we have Legends of Excalibur written into this and a whole bunch of other interesting lore that's appropriate for his character.
That's
And
beautiful.
it's complete bombastic Saturday morning cartoon style fiction.
I love it. I got to check that out. I mean, Piper to me is like, man, he's one of those guys you can go back to almost any part of his career and just needle drop on it. You're going to see something special and different. Like, even his shoot interviews, the guy, you never know what he's going to say next. You never know what he's going to do.
One of my favorite things in this book is that we've got tons of guest stars, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan's one of them. I had a
Oh,
beautiful
Bobby the
conversation.
Brain.
Yeah, so in this story, he owns a pizza shop that sells 2x4 pizzas, 2x4 foot pizzas, and the crime gang called the Stable tried to knock over his pizza joint.
Oh my God.
So
The art there is beautiful too. How long does it take you to pull
Thank you.
something like that together? I mean, I've made 1 or 2 comics in my day, and every time I finish, I'm like, that was a lot of work for very
one
little.
of the hardest things about being an independent comic book artist is keeping your bills paid while you're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Because for this book, I didn't get a page rate. It was basically we get the book done, we do the crowdfunder, and then I get paid on the back end.
Mhm.
Well, I still got to keep the bills paid, so that's why I do Comic Con. So that made it take like almost 2 years to get this 52-page book done, and I'm so ashamed of that time frame. But it's like, what can I do? I gotta pay my rent, I gotta
Yeah.
pay the car payment and the insurance, and if I'm not getting paid to do this per page, turning in pages and getting paid for it, I got no income coming in.
And if it's not done right, it's not going to sell either. So it's not like you can just cut corners.
I don't want to rush things. I don't want to cheat on the art. I want to give something to people because somebody's going to hand over $20 for this. I want them to love and cherish it and be able to enjoy it.
And if they don't, they won't buy the next one either. That's the other thing too. Is it's like
exactly.
you can't short shift people. You won't get them back.
So this took longer than I wanted it to. Thankfully, that's not happening with Bulldog. It's going a lot easier now. I've got like 20 pages left to draw. But that's because I've got another book I'm working on that's paying me a page rate. So where I can say, look, I'm going to do maybe 1 show a month this year, if that, so that I have all this other time to be in studio drawing pages. That's my goal for this year, is to get all these books done because I want to get back to Dinosaur Man. And I've got a long-term contract with this other gentleman doing a kids book series for him called Achromatic Chronicles. And there's a lot of work there. So I'll be able to do that, stay home, and have the extra time to do other things that I want to do, like Dinosaur Man. And I've got a whole bunch of other IP that I want to do. Plus, we got the 3rd installment of this after Bulldog that we're going to announce in summer. And yeah, and I got a granddaughter now. I've got elderly parents. I can't be traveling every weekend anymore.
I've reached that same point too. How old are you?
45.
I'm 40. I turned 45 in April. Yeah. So like, I'm the same way. Like my parents are in their 70s. You're just like even my cats are like older than 10 or they're turning 11 this year. I'm just like, if you don't like, the time's important and it's like, we're at that point in our life where we have to make the most out of we still have a lot of time left. We got to make the most out of it and use it wisely,
Absolutely. You're 100% correct there.
Yeah.
And I love conventions, but they're so exhausting.
Yeah.
And being 45 is like, I would rather, maybe my buddy Dan, maybe somebody else. Hey, here's my catalog. Take it to all the shows you're doing. Send me back a percentage. We're good.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a few I'm really hoping to be at Squared Circle again this year. I'm on the wait list currently, but I mean, that's a beautiful wrestling show in Indianapolis. If anybody who's close enough to come out, if you've never been to a Squared Circle, it's a great, intimate wrestling experience. You'll get time with the wrestlers that you wouldn't necessarily get at a big con. And it's the promoters do a good job. So then that's in March, end of March.
Sweet, that's awesome. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is, so what I was doing, I did this project in 2015 where I had a problem where I couldn't draw faces. I was actually doing this piece of The Rock, and every time I did it, it looked more like Barack Obama when I showed it to people. It was The Rock holding a koala. It was a picture I found of him, and I did it in like decoupage in the background, and I painted it. And I finally got it right, but that prompted me to go, I got to learn how to draw faces. So in 2015, I drew a portrait every day for a year. And nice. I got pretty good at it. And then, but the problem, then from there, I started working on comics. But the problem is, my hand wouldn't hold up. And eventually, like when I was younger, I tried to be a DJ. So I started using my mouse with my left hand so I could start being ambidextrous. And that never worked out. But years later, when this hand started hurting, and I used my mouse with my left hand most of my life, I started drawing with my left hand, and it was there. Like I could draw with my left hand within a week. And like it wasn't the same, but it was a cool style that like I would have been happy with even if it was my right-handed style. And like, but what I realized is like I don't know that I'm physically cut out to do this work full time, because I'd want to be a comic book artist, but I'm like, if my arm is already hurting, like, so how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with the physical limitations that come with this when like it's like you can't do your best work with like a broken arm or like a hurt arm? And maybe I'm just a wuss, but how do you deal with it?
Necessity is the mother of all invention, and I'm at a place like for whatever reason, God brought a illness into my life called scleroderma, and I don't know if you noticed, but my hands are jacked up.
Wow,
they look like they were drawn by AI.
So those hands drew this Danhausen piece?
Yes.
Wow, extra star. It's a 6-star piece now.
And it's. At first, I thought my career was over when I started noticing the changes happening. I could see my art was getting worse. Things was like, this is the range of motion for these things. But again, is like, I'm so passionate about doing this. Is the only thing I've ever wanted to do really is draw comic books. So you find a way to make it happen. And technology was definitely there for me. I have a Wacom tablet. Most of my stuff is digital.
Me too. I love the Wacom tablet.
I can compensate from any shakiness if I need to. And honestly, because I've been doing that so long, I'm using the compensation less and less now because the strength here is built up. Also, like I take care of myself. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I don't take anything unnatural. I don't eat from the center aisles of the grocery store anymore. I pretty much do keto, carnivore. I take a load of supplements, like, a little shot glass about this full high of supplements every day after I eat breakfast, and try to live as natural and healthy a lifestyle to keep as much of like, because 2 or 3 years ago in January, before I started this lifestyle change, I was walking around like I was 90 years old with severe, like hunched over, constant pain. And it's like, I've either got to sink or swim, and it's just not in my constitution to sink. So I was able to cut out the sugar, the Twinkies, all this other stuff. And once you start noticing a benefit change, your body's like, I got time to heal. One of the reasons why I know nothing about your beliefs, but if anybody has ever read the Bible at all, fasting is mentioned in there many times. Whenever there's somebody in a spot, they have to go and fast. I do intermittent fasting where it's like a 16-8. And it is so incredibly beneficial to do that because your body can't heal itself while it's digesting food. It can't work on itself. So the longer you go without food, your body's like, okay, what needs to be fixed? Where can I take energy from? That's how you lose the fat cells that are around like the inside your organs and whatnot. You don't want fat around your organs. It's been a beautiful but frightening change for me because it's such a big dichotomy against the fat kid that grew up.
Exactly.
It's like cereal, shoveling that in. Oh my gosh, that stuff's terrible.
I know it is. It's funny too. Like, the other thing too about intermittent fasting is like, you want to get excited about a salad, wait 16 hours to eat it. Because that salad will take, or wait, like it's like the food, like, because a lot of people are go, I don't want to eat the healthy food. I like healthy food, it's not a big deal for me. But I'll tell you, as much as I like salad on like any time, when I have it after like not eating for 16 hours, it's one of the best things I've ever tasted. And it's like you learn more of an appreciation for food, I think, and the role that food is supposed to play in your life. It's not.
Absolutely.
It's like because I've used food as a drug. To be honest, like I had way too much sugar over the holidays. I'm on day 3 or 4 of cutting it out. I went to the grocery store this morning at 7 a.m. and I succeeded in not getting the stuff that I wanted. And I walked out of there feeling better than if I hadn't. It's like it makes a big difference. Like the working
Good on
out,
you, man.
the
Good on you,
drinking
man.
2 of these a day, the water. It's because I don't drink anything other than water either. It's like or decaf black coffee. It's like it
Yeah,
makes a
I
huge.
love black coffee. I drink a lot of water. I'm a whiskey guy, but but and this is I told this to my father. It's like despite my best efforts, Dad, I didn't inherit your alcoholism.
My dad's
So
an alcoholic too.
I
I'm
can
an
have
edibles guy because I can't have alcohol because I got a
yeah,
little bit of
I
that
do
in me.
edibles too,
Yeah,
but I'm the same way. They're not habit forming with me. I can like have one, enjoy it, not have one for a month, and be fine with it. I don't have any like I need to, you know.
yeah.
So I'm fortunate in that respect. That's not anything that I've pushed on myself, but and there's carbs in whiskey. I know that. That's why I don't
Yeah, everybody
drink
needs a little
it.
cheat though. It's like
Absolutely,
we all need a
reward
little bit
yourself
of
for good
enjoyment.
behavior.
Yeah. Because the thing is too, what I'm nervous about is like I'll go through times when I'm super healthy, and then like a birthday will come up, and people will want to celebrate with me, and it's like I'm like, hey, the cake. I'm sorry, the cake is gonna set me. It's like I feel bad going. I know the cake is appreciated, but it's gonna set me off on a tough direction because it's like reintroducing a drug to me in some form. Because sugar is a
Right,
drug. It acts
exactly.
like a drug. It hits your pleasure centers and dopamine and all that stuff, and it's hard because like I have father's an alcoholic. He's been recovering for 13 years. He's doing great now, but I'm what you call a gray area drinker, where it's like
Mm.
I could drink enough to make me unhealthy over time, but not so much that it's going to be like the type of person go, you got a problem, you got to stop. So it's like the type
Right.
of drinking that hurts me but doesn't hurt others, which is easy to let go on forever, which is why I stopped a couple of years ago. But like you got to know yourself.
Absolutely, and that comes to having self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's so huge. There's so many people out there who don't understand the way that they come off, and you see so much of it in Facebook comments. You see a lot of it with people talking to strangers and fighting with strangers on the internet. Which I have a saying that it's like if you're arguing on the internet, you've already lost. If you're arguing with a
Yeah,
stranger on the internet, you've already lost. I strongly feel that.
yeah. I made the assertion that I'm not going to make judgments about anybody I have interactions with until I sit down and have a meal with them,
Yeah, yeah,
because you really don't get to know a person until you're in a casual environment. So you might be dealing with somebody putting up a mask because they have childhood trauma, and that's why they're acting like a fool on Twitter or whatever.
yeah.
Give that person the benefit of the doubt. There's no reason to hate on them. It's just like that's kind of how I operate.
You understand too that people use social media for different things. Some people use it to sell things. Some people use it to try to create a different environment what their life is like. But some people do use it as almost like an Andy Kaufman type way to get out something that they don't want to do in the real life. And it's really
Right.
hard when it's a stranger to know what is what. And to some degree, how much can you really care? It's like you can't get too invested in these total. But it's like there is some degree where I think the idea of giving people their grace and just being like, I don't need to get involved in all of this nonsense. I mean, the amount of times that I've written a Facebook comment and deleted it before I wrote it,
Yes.
every time I do that, I'm proud of myself. It's like I'm so in like I feel like yes, I got it out enough. I heard what I wanted to say, and that was enough.
Yeah, I cut Facebook out entirely almost. Like I'll check in once a week or once every couple of weeks. I don't even have notifications on for any of that. Like the only thing that I check regularly is Twitter anymore, just because I have a ton of like personal relationship friends on there. That's the main way we communicate. But it's another thing. It's just like there's like I have to discipline myself to put this thing down, put it away, not have notifications on, get my work done, then check it.
Yeah. My
And
dad, who's a small businessman, he's run a machine shop his whole life. He has a saying that when you work for yourself, the boss is always an asshole. And it's like if you want to be successful to some degree, you got to be an asshole to yourself. You got to push yourself.
absolutely, it's as an artist, we are our own worst critics to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the hardest things for me is like for the longest time early on in my fan art career, I had this piece of Wolverine. I absolutely hated it. I hated it for it wasn't the best that I could draw. I cheaped out on the background. There was just a lot of things I didn't like about it, but people kept buying the thing. And another thing that I would get butthurt about early on is people would be buying like really objectively terrible art from people at shows, and I could
Yeah.
not understand why. And it took forever, but it dawned on me is like not everybody sees things the way that I see it, so I need to stop expecting myself from other people, take them at face value, and that's that's life changing there when you can really just kind of okay, this is not how I would do it, but I'm not them.
Right. There's really two reasons why people buy art. One is they think it's going to be a good financial investment, and the other is because they have an emotional connection to it, or some combination of the two. And the emotional connection thing is huge. It's like it's really tough to try to logically figure that out. You know?
Yeah, because the attachments can come from so many different places. Like for me, I own a little bit of original art. I'll show you one of my favorite things, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
I was 27 years old. I was at a convention in Indianapolis Comic-Con. Right across from me is my all-time comic book. He hates the word hero because people who serve in the military are heroes. I got chewed out by him when I called him my hero. Bob Layton. And so I had him draw. This was my birthday present to myself.
Oh my God. Is Bob Layton the guy who did the Iron Man cover?
Yeah.
I have a signed print of him, the Iron Man bottle. I have a signed print of him right over there. I met him at a comic show. Wicked nice guy. That's amazing. I love that piece.
Yeah, so this is Iron Man fighting Magnus Robot Fighter, two of my all-time favorite characters.
Oh, man. Bob was such a nice guy the day I met him. That's so awesome.
Yeah, the first time I met him, he still had a bit of a chip on his shoulder over the whole Iron Man and not getting credit for the film and whatnot. Tough. But yeah, since then, it's all worked out. And like I follow him on all my accounts, and he's been doing a tour of Europe and Greece, and now he's been in Korea for the last couple of weeks. Oh, but yeah, fabulous person. He's one of the people who inspired me to be a comic book artist. Yeah. And so yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces.
That's beautiful. Yeah, his work too. Like if you think of it, you know, I don't know when the bottle issue came out. I'm guessing 70s, 80s, or whatever. But it's
like 74.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it's like if you think of like what comics were still coming out at a time of being very poppy. I mean, that was around not that long after like the Batman TV show with Adam West was on TV. And it's like to have something that gritty, like it reminds me of sort of the Green Arrow or the Green Arrow like heroine speedy thing, where you just like stuff like that like has an impact. And it's like I've always been a Marvel guy versus a DC guy because I like seeing these people with powers have real life problems. I don't like to see the heroes as gods. I like to see them as people with real life problems. It's like that cover really sums it up. It's a very iconic.
Yeah, the storytelling in Layton's run in Iron Man is the greatest thing you could ever read if you're an Iron Man fan. Like, and just not and outside of that, it's just story wise where he takes the character through all of these ups and downs, takes the character to the absolute bottom of the barrel, builds the character back up. It's all this idea of being able to redeem oneself, to repent, to rebuild yourself. And that's why it's like somebody like you know, the casting for the Iron Man movie with JDF
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm having problems with names today, but it was so perfect because his life story is that too.
Yeah.
He's the perfect casting for Tony Stark.
Wasn't even the highest paid guy in that first movie either. It's like he knew he had to earn it back. A lot of money on insurance. A lot of money was spent on insurance in that movie, and it wasn't all because of the suit, you know.
But you know, and it's those types of stories that we need to see in culture. That's why comics are doing so bad right now, especially in the mainstream, is they're not telling stories that people can relate to.
Right. It's all the same problem that the MCU has now, where it's kind of like they need a reboot every once in a while because things get so convoluted, and it's not longer about the human story. It's about keeping the whatever momentum is left going of the previous.
Yeah, story. Exactly. Like it's been hard for me to digest any of the recent MCU content because it's hollow. It's not very well written. And I can't relate to the characters, and I don't need to see myself to relate to the characters, but I need to see that struggle.
Right.
like a legitimate struggle to be able to relate to that.
Guardians 3 was the last one that I think knocked it out of the park. Like I really enjoyed the Ant-Man 3. I thought it was fun, but I remember watching that. I watched that and I loved it. And then I watched Guardians 3. I'm like, oh, that's a real achievement though. Like that. And I enjoyed the Marvels when I saw it. But like someone pointed out, it's like 100, it's like reading 100 issue 150 of a comic that you stopped reading around issue 20, where you don't, it's like it's enjoyable but you're still kind of off balance, and you're like, what does this really mean? And it's like, especially
Right.
now that we know that everything is possible in the MCU. Before it was like, will they really do the multiverse? Will they really do Thanos? Will they really do Infinity Gauntlet? And now you're like, you wouldn't be surprised if like Deadpool rode a unicorn straight out of the screen and took a shit on your lap. It's like, at this point, how do you surprise people anymore? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. It's just like where you've kind of they've painted themselves into a corner, and where do you go from here? It's like I'm not excited about any of the upcoming projects. Like I'm a huge Fantastic Four Silver Surfer fan.
Me too. I got a bunch of
There's
Silver Surfer art up there. Like I got an Eric Larson original drawing of Silver Surfer there.
oh sweet.
Yeah.
You
Wonder
know,
if I
the
can take
rumors
that
that
on
they're going to
board.
make Silver Surfer a woman, and the casting for so far is terrible. It's like
Who
the
is your
only reason
Silver
I want to
Surfer? Because
see.
the name I throw out there is Keanu Reeves, and maybe he's a little old, but it's a lot of CGI. Do you have anybody who you think is your Silver Surfer?
Honestly, I think that'd be great casting, but or even a nobody who just has the acting chops.
Right,
Because
like a young kid, maybe that they probably can get more
one
out
of
of.
the things that's really irked me about how the MCU has devolved is it's become about we need to see how fast we can take the mask off and just see the actor's face for the rest of the dang movie.
Yes, good point. Yeah.
You know, that's as
The
bad as
same thing to
making
do with Jennifer
Colossus
Lawrence.
climb
That was the
smoke.
Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique thing, which that's emblematic of a lot of the problems. If you have a villain, they try to make into a hero because of who she is as a
Yeah,
person, as a famous person, and then take it. It didn't work.
yeah. So it's like, you know, like with the whole thing with Kang, I never saw Kang in that entire movie. Kang, that's not Kang. Kang has like a wicked, weird blue face,
Yeah,
the helmet, all that
agreed.
stuff. You know, it's like we got Thor's helmet very early on, but he took that off and never had it on since. You know, there's things like that. As a true comic book fan, I want to see the character and not the actor. That's all
Yeah.
I can
I
say
also
about that.
think, despite the praise I just heaped on Guardians 3, Adam Warlock's a big fan of his character. He was a little underserved in that movie. And I
Oh,
think
like,
the guy they had playing him would have also made a decent Silver Surfer, I think. Because I think it
oh
wasn't the actor's fault. It was
no,
underwritten in the way they underwrote Taskmaster. Characters that, even though it was okay for the story, didn't do the character justice in a way that fans like me
yeah.
wanted
Well,
to
I
see.
mean, it matters who you hire to write these things. Yeah, so get somebody who's a name, get somebody who checks a box. But if they're not a genuine comic book fan, and they're trying to put more of themselves in the writing than the actual characters, you can't
Yeah.
avoid that on screen.
Right. The Tim Burton syndrome, because it's like those Batman movies, or Joel Schumacher, I'd say. Tim Burton did it
Schumacher,
better. Joel
yes.
Schumacher did it not so good.
Yeah, because like Tim Burton Batman, that's Batman for me. That and Batman the Animated Series,
Oh yeah.
those are absolutely incredible because you got people who are passionate about the material, writing the material.
And even too, Adam West Batman, I like a little. To me, the problem I have with Batman is that even Christian Bale, I love the acting, it's all great, but I never believed that his Bruce Wayne would actually put on a bat suit. I believe he'd go out and kick some ass. I do not believe he would wear a bat suit like a weirdo. Like, and it's like, then you see Robert Pattinson. I don't believe that his character would ever take the fucking bat suit off. That guy looks like he sleeps in the bat suit in that movie. And it's like there was that movie I've only watched once and I enjoyed it. I haven't watched it back again. It's probably a little long and they probably tried to cram too much into it. But I did really appreciate that out of it. And it's like, it's either that or I like the super goofy Adam West Lego Batman where they actually inject humor into it. So it's like, you either got to convince me that this guy will put the costume on, or you got to just rely into the humor. And some of the stuff hits the middle zone and it doesn't always do it.
Well, yeah, that was Schumacher's whole problem. Is the only thing he knew about Batman was the Adam West TV show. So he tries to take the camp and make it serious, and it doesn't work at all.
You can't turn George Clooney into Adam West either. It's like, if you want to do that, then don't hire George Clooney. Hire somebody who is more Adam West at, or at least, it's pure West, baby. No like armored plate on this guy.
Yeah, that's the thing about these producers who make these movies is like, we got to get a big name in here so people watch this movie. They don't realize that with fandom, we're coming to see the fandom. We will see nobodies in this movie if you make the movie with nobodies.
Right. And now they understand the fans are the ambassador for the movie. Whereas if the Marvels was super, super good and I loved it, I would have told everybody to go see it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of more people, and a lot of other people have done that too, but people didn't do that. And it's like, and if you're not using your most hardcore fans as your ambassadors to the middle of the road fans, then I think you're really, and I think that's what they did with years. It's like, what comic fan would have seen the Fantastic Four movie and told their other friends to go see it? They would have told them it was absolute garbage, like the other ones, which,
Well, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I've been a Godzilla fan since I was a wee one. That was another one of the things that my dad had me watch the 54 movie when I was still in diapers, most likely.
Fun movie.
I saw Godzilla -1 5 times.
Yep.
I have spent a lot of my time online telling people to go see the movie. And we've gotten that movie from relative obscurity to extending it to the 18th of January. It's up for Best Picture in the Golden Globes. It's the IMDb has it as in its top 250 movies of all time.
I gotta see it. I haven't seen it.
You have to see Godzilla -1 because it gave me faith in going to the movies again. Like it wasn't just, I'm not just going there because I grew up poor. I grew up in a small town in Missouri. I didn't get to go to the movies. That was like Disneyland for me.
Yeah.
So I still enjoy going to the experience of the theater. But when it just feels like I'm filling time or getting a chuckle, that movie had me going like uncontrollably gasping and crying. It's so good.
That's awesome. I recently watched there's a podcast called How Did This Get Made, and they cover like bad movies, and I recently watched the Godzilla movie with Ferris Bueller in it. And
the 98 one? Yeah.
Tough watch. Like there's one part where they're like, you don't get it, Manhattan's the perfect place for him to hide. You're like, it's like with every step a building would crash. It's like they tried to make Godzilla something that could sneak up on you in Manhattan. You're like, what is going on?
It's being a Gen Xer and growing up with the Masters of the Universe movie.
Right, that's another movie I watched with that podcast. I love
Super
that
Mario
movie.
Brothers movie.
Double Dragon movie. That's another movie I watched with the podcast. Both that, Super Mario, and Double Dragon.
We were used to not having stuff, so we took what we could get.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
What we got.
Like even like those Ninja Turtle movies, it's like it was really, there was like, we had the Superman movies, big drought before Batman. When Batman came out, I remember people going, will Batman work? He's not as big as Superman. Will anybody even care about this? And of course,
right,
ever people were shaving in their head, but like it's crazy how long it took for how long it took for them to like realize that, oh, if you make the comic book movies like the comic books, like you utilize like the best parts of the comics, make it something that can exist off the page but kind of jumps off the page, and you got something instead of just being like, oh, Dolph Lundgren, let's get He-Man to play Punisher, and we'll hire Lou Gossett Jr. and Iron Eagle. Kids love Iron Eagle. Let's make this happen. It's bizarre.
Oh, but I still rewatch those movies from time to time.
Oh yeah, and even like the Captain, it's like I have a great love for low budget schlock, and it's like I think bad can turn good with time and stuff like that. And it's even like movies like Shakespeare in Love. Who talks about that anymore? That was like that won the Oscar that year. I'd rather watch friggin' Roger Corman's Fantastic Four and like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that to me is the best Fantastic Four movie thus far. It's the one that I feel the best after watching. It's like I was on a plane once and I watched the Fantastic Four with Silver Surfer, and it was like I was like, if this plane goes down, I don't even give a shit because I don't even like my life anymore watching this. And I watched Justice League on a plane too the same way, and I'm just like, take me now.
Oh, I turned the Snyder Cut off because I was like, I got better things to do. I don't.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that the Snyder Cut was drastically better than the other one, but still, that it's tough. It is a tough. It's, whew, yeah.
This year, because I do the AMC subscription, so me and a couple of buddies, we go to movies pretty regularly. So I've seen a ton of films, and the ones that stuck out the most to me, number one, Godzilla -1, best picture of 2003. Number two for me is definitely like Oppenheimer. That was really good. I loved Asteroid City, but you got to be a Wes Anderson fan.
I am. I haven't seen that. I remember seeing the answer to that. I got to check that out. It looked really good.
Yeah, it is so beautifully shot, beautifully, like the color grading in it looks like an old postcard from the 60s.
Oh, beautiful.
It's a good, but it's the most Wes Anderson film I've ever seen Wes Anderson make.
That's a bold statement because that guy's been up his own ass for a long time, and not in a bad way. It's just the way he does stuff. It's like the attention to detail is
Grand
nuts.
Budapest Hotel is brilliant filmmaking.
It is, yeah.
But and Asteroid City is just like I just enjoyed
Moonlight Kingdom. I love too. Or was
What's
Moon,
that?
is that the Moonlight Kingdom? Is that what it's called? The one with Bruce Willis? Oh God, it had a lighthouse. I remember watching it and loving it. It's my memory is not what it used to be.
Right.
But
anyway, yeah, so that's on Prime now, I think. So you want to pick that up, check it out.
did you see Iron Claw yet? I haven't got a chance to see it
Iron
yet.
Claw was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm dying to see
I know
that.
they took some liberties because I know most of the original story. They took one son out of it because he
Chris isn't in it, right?
Yeah,
he's the one that died of toxic shock syndrome or had that, right? If I'm remembering correctly, I think
so, yeah.
He was like the sort of the quote unquote runt of the litter to some degree.
But it was beautifully done. It was really well performed. Definitely worth a watch. Definitely
Can't wait to see that. Yeah, and it's Zac Efron. It's Carrie, right? And it's the dude from Shameless. I can never remember his name. The dude from Shameless and the
Zac
Bear.
Efron doesn't look like Zac Efron. He's so buff in this movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He's developed and he's really he did the thing, the serial killer. What's his name for Netflix? That was pretty good. I can't remember the guy, the real. So I mean, they're all sociopaths, but I forget the guy's name. Fortunately, I don't need to remember these assholes' names.
Right.
Ted Bundy now comes to me. It shook it loose. So what are you excited about working on now? I mean, obviously you talked about you working on the Piper thing. Like, what do you got? What's 2024 got in store for you?
Well, 2024, we're going to release the British Bulldog book, this follow-up for the Piper book. Also, I have a project called AR-13L, The Little Mermaid. It's a parody of Ariel, the Little Mermaid, but instead of looking for a prince, she wants revenge.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, her partner in crime is Sebastian. He's a crab that lost a claw at a sushi restaurant, so he's just got a knife in place. It's a lot of fun schlock. You can go to Little Mermaid, MERCH, like Mercenary Mermaid. .com and find out about that. So I'm wrapping that up in February to get to the printer. And the Achromatic Chronicles green, hopefully be done by summer and get that off to the printer. And then for the rest of the year, hopefully I'll be in a position where I can get back to doing Dinosaur Man, because I have a print book story for that, and I have a few other comic book projects that I really want to try to get off the ground in the second half of 24.
That's awesome. That all sounds totally amazing. What's the best place for people to get your stuff? I mean, I know you have erikhodson.com. Is that the best place? Or, I mean, obviously conventions and stuff.
If you like going to websites that don't get updated regularly, it's perfect for that. It's pretty much just an online business card for me. But on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Dreaded Dinosaur. So you can hit that up.
I'll have that under your name through the entire thing, so people will see that.
Yep. Absolutely. And then, like I said, like I'm not very active on Facebook. I let Instagram post to my Facebook page for my art. So that kind of takes care of itself. But yeah, and hopefully, this year won't be too on fire. It's an election year, so I know I'm expecting.
Jesus Christ, I've been dreading this year for so long.
People with torches and pickaxes and stuff.
God. That's the thing too. There is a little bit of me that I hate this sneaks in as existential dread, but I'm working on something. I'm like, all right, this is coming out later in the year. And then I'm thinking, what is later in the year? We're all going to be just so angry and like whoever. And it's like, is anybody going to give a fuck about this during all of that? And it's disheartening, and it doesn't stop me from doing it, but you're just like, oh man. And then there's a part of me that goes like, well, the majority of the world's been dealing with nonsense on a huge level that we never have my entire life. To some degree, I'm like, I feel gratitude for the time I've had where the world wasn't literally on fire, but it's
we still live in the greatest country on the planet right now, regardless of how things are shaping up. But I don't know. I think we'd be a lot better if we didn't have politicians.
Yeah.
Because I think, you and I don't know each other very well, but we're getting along fine. And I think everybody in the population could do that to some degree if we didn't have like media and politicians stirring the pot.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that profit off of us fighting against each other.
Exactly. And there's something too, like, so I have a friend, my friend Rick, who has been on the podcast before. He's in his mid-40s. He's been dealing with Parkinson's. It's very early, and he got it in his life. And we're working on an album together called not the golden rule, but the platinum rule. Because the platinum rule is something I come up with, where the golden rule is treat people how you want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat people how they want to be treated. And I feel like if more and more people thought about the way someone else wants to be, and of course there's within reason, some people want to be treated like the king of England, but it's like in general, treat people that like emotionally, like try to think about things from other people's perspective. Said, well, I would like this, or they're going to like this. It's like, that's a very selfish way to approach the world. And I think it leads to a selfish mindset. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me as a Christian, I recognize that everybody is made in God's image. And so there's a certain amount of respect that I give to people, no matter where they are, politically, religious, whatever, because of that fact. You know, I at least will give people dignity, benefit of the doubt, just because of that.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, and it's something I don't practice anymore. But like when I think about the actual lessons of what they say that you're supposed to treat people, that stuff I've carried with me my entire life. Like it's like whether I think that like the church has always done a good job of following their own rules is like one thing, but whether I think that a lot of the advice that they give about the way you treat other people is another thing. That's stuff that like is very important, and it's
sadly humans, when they get in positions of power, it doesn't work out so well.
No, and the institutions are set up that way, because it's like you have a lot of people who I think believe, well, if you just got so and so in there, that would fix it. You're like, well, you're forgetting about the lobbies. You're forgetting about what it's like for these people to go into a chamber every day with all these other lunatics and narcissists and sociopaths and people with all these different agendas. It's like you want to fix. It's like you want to fix politics. You take a lot of the money out. It's take the opportunity for people to become personally, you know, rich off of it, and then that's going to solve some problems. I think. I mean, who knows? It might create others, but like it's a good start at least, you know.
I mean, you see it in the microcosm with like YouTube. Like the shows that make the most money are drama streams where people are just bitching. Yeah. Because people, you know, it's like a reality TV ruined television, because everything becomes about, oh, let's watch this train wreck. You know, it's because it's that easy emotional schlock that makes money. They're going to keep making it.
Yeah, stuff like that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like watching I don't like watching people lose their dignity, and that to me is like makes me feel very. And I don't like watching people argue in general. I'm not an argumentative person, but I really don't like when somebody loses their dignity, especially in a public way. And it's uncomfortable to watch, and it should be uncomfortable for us all to watch. It shouldn't be an opportunity to pile on people, and I think I don't know. You don't know what other people are going through. You got to give them some space.
Absolutely.
So that sounds like a good place for us to stop. You sound like an amazing human being. I'm so glad we got the chance to sit down. Your art's beautiful. I can't wait to see what's coming out next, and I can't wait to order one of those Brett the Hitman pieces, which I'll be searching for a way to do that online pretty soon. But thank you so much for being here today, man. This is awesome.
Hey, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm always willing to come on and talk to people about stuff. And, make sure when you get this done, you send it out to me so I can share it around and get you some more like and subs. If wherever you're watching this, make sure you're subscribing, liking, and all that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll make sure we'll get this will go out, I think the weekend after the Rumble. This is the first episode I've done after that one. So yeah, it'll be out that. So looking forward to it, man. So thank you so much. Check out Erik Hodson's art all over the place, support and all that good stuff. All right, have a good one.
Some motherfucking dub in there. You feel me? You riding today. You riding this? We got some pills. We got pills. We got honest. What up? Yeah, we got everything we need, man. Check. I'm not just saying my license, but it's just saying professionals. You feel me? Come on, let's go to some nice sunny days. Hey, you know summer's coming when folks start getting shot and smoked on city blocks for low with any guap. Same shit, my first full gray hair. One more felony, I might have my first full gray beard. It's way weird. Feel like that was only yesterday. I'ma slowly blow like parolees. The homies guesstimate. When I blow, don't bro me like you know me. No, hit the exit stage. Left of the tackle spray, redirecting your steps this way. It flows, shit progressing. Got the steel with the vested. Even in the summertime, I will Smith and Wesson. You cutting from the grassy, so underground Nardwar wouldn't know what the fuck to ask me. I stick it in the stomach. Now let me hit the throat. She call me Mr. Drummond. So many different strokes. Your punchlines, Mr. Drummond. Audience, Mr. Jokes. To your family, return from visit folks. Some loving, some loving. That's just some loving. Some loving, some loving, some loving. That's
manuscripts. Cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich. But she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won. So she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling, baby, as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher. I'm happy that I luckily sat next to her in algebra. I tried to hold her down, but I just couldn't balance her between the million meetings that I keep in my calendar. Plus odds aren't too sloppy that I know why my cell is blowing up probably, but I should check just as well. Call the cops, see if I can get a hold and tell if that's copyright's yell raising hell inside the holding cell.
Smell the smoke from the cookout. The bushes in the parks with the lookout. Fresh Prince, summertime on the radio. Throwback Friday, yo, the ladies know. Then I'm a smooth type guy. Listen, I'm the shit I need 2-time ply. Part of my soul on my head sky high. The weed smoke covered my body, so I try. Put a scent on like sunblock. Summertime's body season, so keep your gun cocked. I count beers in the cooler, cause when the fun stops, that's when the arguments happen. In the gunshots, it's summertime, backyards where we play cards. Spitting in cipher, the homie Trey